What's up, y'all? If this is your first time, welcome. If this isn't your first time watching us, welcome back. It's the No Bullshit Podcast. It's Kai.
Yo, it's Conklin.
In today's video, man, Combine weekend just ended. So we got a lot to talk about, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, talk about the combine. There was a lot of winners and losers. Like he said, and forewarning before we get into our list of our winners and losers. That at the end of the day, I mean, we kind of view the combine as like a talent show at this point, because there's no actual defending or game
Nah.
planning going on with the combine and stuff like that, right? So we're just
Mm-hmm.
showcasing your raw physical traits and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that, right? And so
Yep.
we're just going to be based off of that, and then when we talk about a little bit more into why we have certain players as our winners and losers, then we'll just explain that sometimes the tape doesn't tape speaks for itself at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, when we say winners and losers, we not what we mean by that is just because you're a winner of the combine doesn't mean that you'll be a good NFL player. You know what I mean? Just
Right.
because
Mm-hmm.
you're a loser of the combine that doesn't mean that you're going to be a bad player. It's just just based off of I kind of view it as half and half, the tape and
Exactly.
then the measurables. You know what I mean? So when we just
Mm-hmm.
look at the physical traits and the measurables, how well you stacked up against your peers. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's all about draft stock at the end of the day,
Hmm.
right? And depending where you get drafted, it depends how much you get paid,
Yep.
right? It could be the difference in making 10 mil to 1 mil,
Yep.
right? That's a
It's just
drastic difference.
it's a lot of guys that performed well and got themselves paid. It's a lot of guys that did the opposite. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So with that being said, I feel like let's start off with a positive note. Let's talk about some of our winners. So I'll start
Okay.
it off with my number one. I guess I was gonna say number one guy, but I actually have two guys here, man. I got both the Texas wide receivers, Xavier Worthy, and Mitchell, man. Like both of them, man. Like it's crazy that Texas had two wide receivers that tested at the combine and were top five in 40-yard dashes of all positions. You know what I mean? And they were teammates, right? So it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Worthy breaking the record, right? Like honestly, it seems as though it was inevitable, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like with today's sports medicine and things like that. But Mitchell, man, like being 6'4" and running a 4.33 is nothing to scoff at. So both of
Mm-hmm.
those guys got themselves paid.
Yeah, for sure. And then I'm gonna get to quickly to a couple of my winners. And it's funny you talked about the Texas receivers. I actually got the Texas D linemen. Two most notably be known is Byron Murphy and T Sweat. And
Hmm.
talk about two guys pivotal to that defense that showed out. They absolutely showed out. You're talking about a guy in T Sweat who's he's just a massive human being, man.
Yes.
And so him being able to even move at I think it's like a 5'2" or something like that. That's
Yeah.
insane.
It's
That's insane,
crazy.
right?
Almost
And
400 pounds.
exactly, right? And then you got Byron Murphy, who's a projected number one, early second, type of a prospect, and so it's he tested really well, and then I'm just getting really quick, into who to my other winner is Brandon Fisk. They
Hmm.
had the little simulcast thing. It was pretty cool of showing both no Fisk and Byron Murphy doing the same drill and everything,
Hmm.
right? So it's just pretty cool to see both of them, go off and talking about 40 time. I know 40 time you don't always have to take it into account, but telling me a 300-pound man that's moving 4.7, that's
It's
that's
crazy.
crazy.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah,
Like, again, when we some of these numbers, man, like it just emphasizes that these athletes are the top 1% of
yeah.
humanity. You know what I mean? And that rolls right into my second guy, man. Listen, just like I gave, in my cornerback rankings, you already know one
Mm,
of my guys is Nate Wiggins, man. And
talk about it.
before Xavier Worthy decided to, break a record, listen, Nate Wiggins had the top 40 of the weekend, right? Like blazing, man. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
I knew it. It was actually kind of funny in our group chat. There was like this bet that came out or whatever about like who And I was like, listen, Nate Wiggins is gonna have the highest 40 time. Again, I was not
Mm-hmm.
anticipating that somebody would go out there and break John Ross's record, right? But listen, like, and he did get an injury running that 40, but
Yeah.
it shouldn't, really, bring his stock down. He says he should be fine by his pro day, so
Yeah.
I'm not too worried by it. But man, he killed it in the 40.
Yeah, man. Just talking about really quick about like our group chat and everything, right? When one of our friends, he posted that little post about like, oh, who's gonna run the best 40, right? Kai, he mentioned Wiggins, right? I had two names. I had Gold or Worthy, and I was
Hmm.
like, shit, I should have fucking bet. Like, shoot, I
Listen,
could have made some money.
listen, man. Like if we know football, you know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
that's just the blunt honest truth.
Yeah,
Both
man,
of us could have won some money if we actually, would have
for
would have would
sure.
have would have put our money where our mouth is. But
Yeah, but like,
um
I'm gonna just go real quick. The my other winner, Troy Fanado, from Washington. Talking about like, and especially those O line drills where it's like
mm,
quick movement and
mm-hmm.
everything. Those are the most important drills. I'm not really looking too much at the 40 and I'm looking at how
Yeah,
fluid they move in like short area spaces and stuff like that. Right.
very fluid.
Right. He's very, very solid, quick on his feet, never looking like, it's never looking like he's in quicksand or anything. And,
Hmm.
tape also shows that, right? So I see, like, when I'm looking at a combine, is that, the combine should be something that you look at to verify your thoughts, not just
Yes.
like, not just like to like, oh, hinder a person or just
Hmm.
overreact on a person, right? It should be
Hmm.
able to like, oh, this is what I saw on tape. Did I see it in the combine,
Hmm.
right? And so I think Troy, he had probably the best, in my opinion, probably one of the best like on tape to field like kind of like translation,
Uh-huh.
right? And I had but before we talked about the we went on the podcast. I told Kai that I had a bold prediction for him, whoever he gets drafted, right? My bold prediction is that he's going to be an All Pro first year. I think he's gonna be. I think he's gonna be an all pro
Ooh.
type of player. I think he's gonna be a Quinn Nelson type of guy.
Okay.
Like I
Oh.
think I really like this guy. Like honestly,
Hmm.
like the more and more I look at him, like I might even like him more than the dude from Oregon, Jackson Powers, who's been also really good, right? But
Okay.
I think I saw his like draft stock where he was like going in like the late first round, getting mocked kind of to the Niners area. But I think with that draft stock, I think he's boosted into like the teens and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
that's my other winner.
Yeah, I mean, I feel as though it's only right. I rounded off with my last guy. You know,
Okay.
Isaac Garendo. You know what I mean, running back out of
Mm.
Louisville, man. Came in, you know, 6 feet, 223 pounds, and ran a 4.33, man. Like, bro, like coming into this draft, there was a couple different answers as to who's the running back one, right? Like there
Yeah.
wasn't like a slam dunk how it has been in the last couple drafts. So this combine and this kind of draft season is very important for the running back position in terms of who will get that number running back one spot, right? And I feel like
Mm.
Isaac put himself right in that conversation, right? A guy not a lot of people talked about, but now you have to, right? Because not only
Mm-hmm.
did he run the fastest 40 of any running back over the weekend. But he ran the fastest 40 of any running back that came in at, a 220 or above since 2003. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, this is
blazing, man.
something like a man that size should not be able to move that fast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I feel like at this point it would not surprise me if he is the first running back, taken in the draft. And
Ooh,
listen, like
interesting.
like we said at the top of the top of the pod, like a lot of guys got themselves paid, and I feel like there's no
Mm-hmm.
guy that got himself more paid than Isaac.
Yeah, and just stick on that topic of like who made that jump on the combine to make them that extra couple thousand, couple hundred
Mhm.
thousand, couple millions of
Mhm.
dollars, right? I've said this in a group chat, right? I'm just gonna reiterate it here. One of my favorite prospects in general in this draft, without injuries, is
Mhm.
Payne Wilson, man, linebacker. from NC State, I believe,
Yep.
right? Talking about the guy who's been riddled with injuries from year to year, right? But you turn on tape from when he's on the field. I think he's the best linebacker in the draft. If you just remove the injuries,
Mm.
in my opinion, because just look at his 40 time as well. Like it translates. Like the thing you see on tape is that he's lightning quick to the ball.
Mhm.
Like he's wherever the ball ends up, like whoever the player is like down, he's right there.
Yep.
Right, him having a 4.43 40 time, insane. Like
Yeah.
you don't see that type of elite speed with a linebacker. And of course, like he's kind of like a more he's kind of like a little bit more, I guess, like skinnier or just like stalkier
Mhm.
linebackers, right? But that happens with a lot of linebackers coming to the league. Like you look at Fred
Listen.
Warner, he was kind of a safety linebacker hybrid type
Listen,
of player, right?
that's where the
But
game is going. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. Mm-hmm.
those kind of hybrid, linebackers, bigger safeties. Like that's what
Mm-hmm.
the league is looking for, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, just getting back to Payne, like on that pro day, he did all the necessary things to prove that, he's definitely one of the top guys up there, right? He probably won't be drafted as the number one linebacker because there's other couple linebackers are, already there, because like I said, there's injury concern. So we'll see
Mhm.
how that kind of like goes and everything, or what team takes a chance even in drafting him early in the second round, right? So we'll see
Yeah,
with that.
it's funny that you brought up, his interview because
Mm-hmm.
I feel as though it was very insightful to hear him. Like they asked him straight up, about his injuries, and he talked about it. He said, "I don't view myself as an injury-prone player. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
injuries are a part of the game. They
Yep.
happen. I'm not scared of them. You know what I mean? Like they don't affect my play or my mindset. Like that's very if I'm a team and I'm thinking about drafting him, hearing him say that bro, like I'm not
Mm-hmm.
worried about getting hurt. I'm here to play football. That makes me
Exactly.
start thinking like, all right, well, if you're confident and if it's not in the back of your head because when you deal with injury after injury after injury, it's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily getting hurt that is the concern. It's like, okay, where's your mental at, right? Like, are
Exactly.
you
Mm-hmm.
scared of getting hurt now? Because that can completely change the game. We've seen that
Mm-hmm.
countless times in countless different sports. So to hear him answer that question and be so candid and be so honest about it, that made me feel a lot better if I'm a team, looking to draft him. But those were our three winners. So
Mm-hmm.
again, when we say winners, losers, we're just going straight off of just the numbers, right? So,
Yep.
I feel like, Coughlin, hit me with one of your losers, man.
Okay, man. Like, I'm gonna get started with one of the losers, right? And talk about uh Kalen King, man. So Kalen King, before even this whole year started, right? He is regarded as one of the top corner prospects,
Yep.
right? But then I don't know what happened, but this year, I guess like he kind of fell off a little bit. He lost a step just a little bit, right? He's getting picked on a lot.
Yep.
He was a lot of I guess like the techniques that we saw that from previous years that he looked sharp. He wasn't sharp. He was getting beat deep easily, especially on like double
Mm-hmm.
moves, stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now those are things that you don't want to really see in like a potential first or second round prospect, especially at
Mm-hmm.
the corner position, because nowadays the league is a passing league, right? So we gotta, as much we love pass rushers, it's a passing league, so we gotta depend on the secondary,
Yeah.
right? And then going into combine and the Senior Bowl, he didn't really help himself. He did
Nah.
not. I'm gonna be honest. If anything, like I said, he's one of my losers for a reason. Like
Mm-hmm.
he didn't help himself this last season he had before the draft, the Senior Bowl, and the draft,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's only so much you can do left from between now and then. Like
Yeah.
maybe like the interview part and then like the combine. I'm not gonna combine the pro day,
Mm-hmm.
but pretty much after that, it's all set in stone,
Yeah.
right? So it's all going to depend how I guess like scouts are going to look at his 1 year of like falling down a little bit, but then his other
Mm-hmm.
years, right? So because at the end of the day, a lot of scouts or teams they're gonna shoot for that, that upside, that potential,
Yeah.
right? And so we'll see how he, falls down the pecking order in the
Yeah.
draft.
I 100% agree, right? Like when you looking at some of these numbers from the combine, like you try to match it with the tape, right? And it's unfortunate, right? Because when you look, like you just said, like you look at his tape, it's a lot of the deep stuff, right? It's a lot of over the top, and when you
Yep.
come in and you run a 4.6, it's that kind of confirms it. Like it'd be one thing if okay, yeah, you get beat, but you have the speed to make up. But if you don't, that kind of limits you, right? Like where now you really have to be in a really zone heavy, system. And listen, that's fine. There's
Mm,
been plenty of, DBs that have been in, zone heavy schemes that have found success. But when you're talking about from a drafting perspective, what is one of the most valuable things that you can be? Versatile. You know what I mean?
yep.
Where I can plug you into any system, and now this kind of pigeonholes them, right? And it is kind of funny that you say that. Where I say that because it's another DB that had
Mm,
a very similar weekend, and that's Cameron Kitchens. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like this was a guy again, very similar to like the running back position. There's not really a consensus safety, right? And
Yeah.
his name was at the table, but you know, I mean, coming in running a 4.65, which was tied for the worst of all safeties, like
Mm-hmm.
it's rough. Like I don't care what position you are, right? If you're dead last in your position at any of these things, that's not good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just not good. And just like I said with King, it kind of puts him in the same position where you can't. I don't know if I feel comfortable lining him up in man against some of these
Yeah.
fast tight ends. You know what I mean? Lining him up possibly on like a slot receiver. I don't know if I feel
Mm-hmm.
comfortable doing that if you run a 4.6, right? Again, football is not played in a straight line, but
Yeah.
it, again, when you match in the tape and the thing that K, Cameron has that Kalen doesn't is Cameron does have better tape, right? I mean,
Yeah.
11
100%.
interceptions in the last two
Yeah.
years. Like, hopefully, some of these teams are looking at it and be like, okay, yes, he did not perform the best at the combine, but just like you said, like you still got your pro day. Maybe if he kills it in the interviews, that he can still kind of save his stock. But
Mm-hmm.
just going off of that, man, like again, being last in any category of your position is definitely not something that you really want to do.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. Give me 1 second. Everybody
Hmm.
kind of disconnected.
You fine?
But no, but yeah, I'm gonna just kind of tie it in with like the fact that sometimes like I said for the winners, right? When I'm talking about Troy, that inside offensive lineman from Washington, right? The reason why he was a winner was because you know they're translating the tape to the field, right? And it matches,
Yep.
right? But then when you look at other guys like Kitchens, right? When you check the tape versus the field, kind of is a little off,
Uh
right?
huh.
But at the end of the day, it depends on the scout how they want to look at it, right? And
Yeah.
one similar, loser that I have in that kind of like retrospect is Keenan Coleman, right? Talking about the
Hmm.
receiver from I think Florida State
Florida
University.
State. Yep.
And so here's the thing, it's weird because like he had a kind of bad slow 40 time 4.61, right?
Hmm.
But then he had an amazing what's it called, vertical, amazing
Yeah.
vertical, right? And that translates to his film,
100%.
right? And like you talking about, here's the thing, I feel like for me, for receivers, I don't really pay too much attention to the 40, not too much, depending what type of
Hmm.
receiver you are,
Yep.
because
Depends
Keenan
on.
Coleman, right, his speed is not his
No.
main element of his game, right?
No.
It's the ability to track the ball downfield,
Hmm.
right? Be able to get open, and I feel like he's an underrated separator, right? People say
Hmm.
that he's not. People say that he can't really separate, but I think he's kind of underrated in that department, right?
Hmm.
And be able to catching traffic with that size and everything, right? And
Uh,
like you
I mean,
look,
you like we're talking about a guy in Keelan Coleman that he was a top recruit in basketball, right?
yeah,
And just
hmm
like you said, like that shows, man. He is a receiver that will get the ball on the top of the rim, man.
yeah. And then just going on real quick, like he's just one of those guys that, like, when you look at receivers in general, right? Who like that didn't really test well in the 40, but they are really good. Talking about Cooper Cup,
Mhm.
right? Talking about a Puka Nakua. But heck, talk about Mike Evans, kind of,
Mhm.
right? Those type of receivers, they don't really rely on speed. They
No.
rely on short area quickness and getting open and
Mhm.
tracking the ball downfield, right? And then those are the things that Keon Coleman does. But like I said, the combine they looked at their physical traits here
Mhm.
and there, right? Especially the 40. I know a lot of scouts pay attention to 40 a
Mhm.
lot for some reason in certain positions more than most. And like I feel like from in my opinion, he was like a first round pick,
Mhm.
right? But now he's probably going to drop down to like a second round pick, anywhere from I feel like to mid second to late second, right? So he probably costs a little bit of money in that
Mhm.
department, man.
Yeah, and uh, again, you know, the 40 is not the end all be all,
Exactly.
but it's the spectacle, right? It's the
Yeah.
most viewed combine edge.
Yeah.
Like like you just said, that's what a lot of scouts, and that's what pops out at you, right? And for this guy, it was not something he wanted to be seen, and that was
Mhm.
Braylon Trice,
Yeah.
edge rusher out of Washington, right? It's funny,
Mhm.
his teammate had a really good combine showing, he did not,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the biggest thing with Trice is it's like that question of, okay, how do you fit in the NFL, right? Because
Mm.
he showed up to the combine at what do I have now? He showed up to the combine at 245, which was 30
Really?
pounds lighter than he was listed at Washington, right? But
So he lost weight.
he lost 30 pounds, but he still ran a 4.7. You know what I mean? Like
That's
it's contradictory. You know what I mean? Like, we're okay if you're 300 pounds, okay, cool. You run a 4.7, that's pretty good, but you're sub 250, right? Like, where,
yeah.
okay, so you're a smaller player, you don't have that, that speed. How where do you fit into the NFL, right? Like,
Mhm.
he kind of finds himself kind of in that tweener, right? Where
Yeah.
if and this and again, when we talk about these stats, we're not saying that these players will be good or be bad. Just going straight off the numbers, where and now that impacts his stock, because now, as a defensive minded scout, coach, whatever, I'm now thinking like, I don't know what to do with you, right? And if I'm saying that, I'd rather go draft a guy where I know how he could fit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, where I don't know if I'm gonna take a chance on him, right? And
Mhm.
he definitely cost himself some money, right? Like, 4.7 at sub 250. That's not a good showing, right? Like, again, the 40 is not the end all be all. Like I said, football is not played in a straight line, but
Mhm.
certain positions in certain body types and weights, like, you have to be in some level of a threshold.
Yeah, man. Like, and honestly, if because I didn't even know his numbers and stuff like that, right? So when you just told me those numbers and the measurements, I was kind of shocked,
Yeah.
right? But I'm not. If I'm a scout and I'm looking at him, right? Honestly, the 40 time doesn't really concern me like that, but it's the weight that he lost,
Mhm.
right? Like I said, he's in people's eyes, it's like he's kind of a tweener. Like, what do you want to be,
Yeah.
right? Because, bro, I'll be honest, like coming to the draft, right? I didn't even know how to like kind of like compare him or like scout
Mhm.
him because like he's not an edge rusher, but he's not a defensive tackle,
Mhm.
right? And it's like, and I'm thinking about like different systems that he could be in. It's like 4-3-3-4, and it's like I'm not really sure, right? But then
Yeah.
you telling me that he lost weight to like around 240 or something like that, right? Lost 30 pounds, but still runs a 4.7, and it's like, here's the thing, like if he was the same weight, like around 270,
Mhm.
or maybe if he didn't lose 30 pounds, maybe he was like 250 around there, right? But
Mhm.
he's still like a 4.7. I'm like, maybe he wants to be like an outside slash middle linebacker kind of build, kind of like that, but he's just one of those guys coming to draft that I just didn't really know how to grade on him
Yeah.
because a lot of people had him as a second round pick, but I was like, I don't even know about that, right? Because
Yeah.
he's just too many questions around him.
Yeah. Like you just said, like, where you don't really know what position he plays because he's too small to really be on the inside, but he's
Mm-hmm.
not fast enough to be on the outside.
Exactly.
So it's definitely going to be very, and he's like with all these guys that we say really lost stock over the combine. This pro day is going to be very important for them. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like where they have to kind of make up ground because who knows? It could be nerves. It can be poor execution in terms of them going throughout the drill. So maybe when they're in more of a comfortable environment at at their own home, team facility, that they can have some better numbers. But yeah, like 245 running a 4.47 is that's just not gonna cut it, man.
Yeah, and I'm gonna get it right real quick to here to like my last loser here, right? And it's disappointing. It's really disappointing who I'm about to name, and it's Spencer Rattler.
Mhm.
Right, talking about a guy coming in a draft, right? That he had an okay season, right?
Mhm.
Transferring from what's it called? I think it was like Oklahoma
Mhm.
to I think it was like South Carolina
Yep.
State or something like that, something like that. But um, he played okay, right? But then the Senior Bowl, he was the MVP. I think he was like the
Senior Bowl
Senior
MVP.
Bowl MVP. Yeah, so like he improved his stock,
Mhm.
right? But then the combine, what the fuck was that,
Laid an
right?
egg.
Like you talking about Kitchens being last in his 40 time in his position group, right?
Mhm.
Well, I'll give you this, even worse, bro. Like Spencer Rattler, he finished dead last in every QB drill. Like that's insane. Like I'm
That's
talking about every like passing, vertical jump, like 40, everything, bro. Then
it's
that's insane,
crazy.
man. Like I don't understand how you have the opportunity to raise your stock. It's like,
Mhm.
and coming in draft, the people that needed quarterbacks, right, were like, okay, he improved his stock in the Senior Bowl. We'll
Mhm.
see. And then it was like in the combine, it's like, okay, actually going to get to see up front all the scouts. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
we're going to see what you're really kind of about, right?
Mhm.
And I don't. He just did not help his case, right? I think
No.
he had a major opportunity to make some money, man. I feel like he could have
Mhm.
been one of those guys to, was on the trajectory going in the second round,
Could
even,
be.
right?
Could have.
And
Yep.
right,
100%.
but having I'm gonna just call it how it is. He had a shit show. He had
Oh,
a fucking
100%.
shit show, man. And so his stock went back down to what it was before the season started. I feel like,
Mhm.
right? And so teams are just left wondering, like, what do we like? What like? How do we want to scout this guy,
Mhm.
right? And obviously, at the combine, like I said, it's a talent show, right? And then in the Senior Bowl, you actually doing playing against other players and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So maybe you want to grade the game different from the combine, but even if you do that, right? Sorry, the fire trucks. I live in Broad Street, but no. Anyways, but no, yeah. But here's the thing: you can't come in last in every
No.
single drill. That
There's
is just
no
unacceptable.
there's no
Especially if you're a
excuse.
quarterback. We all know quarterbacks have that ego about them, right?
Mhm.
And you come in dead last. I don't know.
Every
I
yeah.
don't like your ego is gonna come down way down, right?
Listen, like Spencer Rattler is a very interesting story, right? You know what I mean? We're talking
Yeah.
about, a five-star recruit, you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
coming out of high school and, going to Oklahoma. Ultimately gets his job taken by Caleb Williams, right? So he
Funny enough.
transfers, Caleb Williams also transfers and, you know, he tried to have a fresh start at, South Carolina and he had some success, had some not so
Yeah.
good games, right? Where
Right.
we were just looking at that like, okay, like again, this was a five-star recruit, right? Like we're
Yeah.
as if I'm a scout, I'm trying to find those splashes, right, to see if he still is that player, right? And like you just
Mm-hmm.
said, this was like the perfect opportunity where a lot of the consistent top guys were
Mm-hmm.
not competing, right? Caleb wasn't
Yeah.
competing, Jaden Daniels wasn't competing, Drake May really wasn't competing, like where
Mm-hmm.
okay, when it comes down to, who's going to be that quarterback for, that was wide open,
Yeah.
right? Like, especially coming off of, a Senior Bowl MVP where, like you just said, if he killed the combine after getting that Senior Bowl MVP, if I'm a scout, I'm like, damn, like, okay, maybe that
Mm-hmm.
5-star recruit is still in there, right? Where
Exactly.
maybe, I am a team that takes a flyer on him in the second round, takes a flyer on
Mm-hmm.
him in the third round. But
Or
like you
trade
just
in the late
said,
first.
uh, but um, um, but like now, like you just said, like he kind of really undid all the work he did off that pro day in terms of like,
Mm-hmm.
again, all these measurables are not the end all be all, but
Mm-hmm.
it's hard as a, if I'm a scout to look at a guy that came dead last of everyone in his position at every, like, it's hard
It's
to just
insane,
look
man.
that off. Like, there has to be a level of your stock that takes a hit if you
Mm-hmm.
come in last in everything. Like, that's
Yeah.
just, like you just said, that is a shit show.
Yeah.
That's the textbook definition, right? And you know, my last guy, he didn't have that bad of a
Okay.
combine, but kind of similar to what I said about Isaac, where that consensus
Mm.
number one running back was up in the air, right? And one of the guys that going into the combine, I felt as though definitely had a seat at the table was Audric Estime, running back out
Mm.
of Notre Dame. But I mean, he came in, ran a 4.7. That's not good. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I know the film says he's more of a power back than he is
But
a
still,
speed back.
can't run 4.7.
4.7 is that's just not gonna cut it. And if I'm a team that's looking for a running back, that's crossing you off my list. Like 4.7, like, I mean, he put up 23 reps on the bench, so that's pretty solid. But 4.7, that's just there's so many guys that, again, but kind of similar to Spencer Rattler, where you had a very good opportunity to etch your name in the late first, second, third conversations. Where now you're looking at fifth round, sixth round. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's not to say, again, like, of all of these guys that, like, you can't still become a good NFL player. But if we're
Mm-hmm.
just talking about, listen, what do these guys play this sport for? Money, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to make as much money as I can, and he is definitely one of those guys that lost a lot of money with that performance, man. And again, that's just to round it off with him, man.
And yeah, man, like at the end of the day, right? Like we said, the combine is a foregone conclusion of a talent show,
Hmm.
right? Let's be honest here, right? And like you said, we're just trying to take it in the perspective of draft stock, right? And how these guys can make more money or lose money,
Hmm.
right? And so, there's a lot of guys that we had as winners that did make money, right? There's some losers that drastically lost money, like
Yeah.
especially the last two guys we just said,
Yeah.
right? But like actually, I'm gonna say just one more loser. I just had it in my mind, right? It's just kind of a funny one, but shout out to John Ross, man. Yeah, like he had
Highway
that 40.
robbery.
He had that 40 time record for a while, and
Hmm.
the unofficial time was actually tied with his actual record 4.22, but
Hmm.
the official was like 4.21. It's like
Four, two,
fuck.
one. Yeah.
So shout out to John Ross. Who knows where he is? I don't know. Selling burgers or whatever, but but
Hmm.
but yeah, man. Like yeah, it's on to the not Pro Bowl. I said Pro Bowl. On
Hmm.
to the Pro Day,
Pro day.
guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
And with that being said, man, what I mean, again, as I always say in every video, we appreciate the support. We appreciate you guys
Mm-hmm.
like, commenting, and sharing, man. You know, I'm curious, right? Like, I know I always, ask you guys to comment, but I'm gonna give you guys a prompt. How long do you guys think it's gonna take for somebody to break this 40 record, right? Like,
Ooh.
is it gonna be 2 years, 5 years? Like, what's the prediction? If
Over
you
under?
have one, oh, over under 5 years. Like, what are
Ooh.
we saying, man? Because listen, at this rate, who knows, right? So definitely drop your prediction down in the comments, and again, like, comment, subscribe, share, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yes, sir. Peace.